Tonight, a fatal collision. A woman is killed while riding her bike as two young children follow behind. Also, a Saskatoon rare earth processing plant is finally under construction after more than a decade of planning.
There will not be 5 or 10 processing hubs across Canada. It doesn't make sense.
Plus, reflecting on the past and ready for the future. We speak to Cadmus Delorme about his time as chief of Cowessess First Nation.
The return on it is that our people are getting stronger.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Thursday, May 25th, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. A local school board and members of the wrestling community across Canada are mourning one of their own tonight. The teacher, athlete, and mother was struck and killed yesterday afternoon as she rode her bike near the University of Saskatchewan. Dane Patterson has more on that story.
This is where Natasha Fox was struck by a cement truck Wednesday afternoon. She was a school teacher and an avid cyclist and wrestler. Her husband tells CBC he remembers her as always biking through sun or snow and as a person who always saw the best in the world. Members of the wrestling community have also posted their condolences. Fox was a world team member and a previous RBC Olympian and considered a mentor and role model in the community. The Saskatchewan Amateur Wrestling Association said the wrestling world is a tight group and the news has devastated those in it. Those in the Saskatoon Greater Catholic School System, where she taught, were also saddened to hear of her passing. Her death has also reignited the importance of safe routes for bicycles.
And when you're not inside a metal box of a car that protects you with all the things inside there, you've got, your airbags and your seat belt and your special seats for your children. You're safe in there in general. A fender bender, inconvenience, you're shaken. Imagine if you don't have that in your head.
The collision closed off parts of College Avenue yesterday, but it has since reopened. Saskatoon police say they're continuing to investigate the incident. They also confirmed there were 2 children riding on bikes behind Fox at the time of her death. Dane Patterson, CBC News, Saskatoon.
In Alberta, cooler temperatures and rain are providing a welcome respite in some areas. In others, out-of-control flames continue to wreak havoc in what is now being called a record-breaking spring for wildfires. Some evacuation orders have been lifted, but thousands are still unable to return home and have no idea when they'll be able to. Kayla Hounsell has more.
I'm in the town of High Level, which is more than 700 kilometers north of Edmonton, and where the Deneda First Nation is setting up a temporary camp for people who have been displaced by fires. One of its communities, Chate, was evacuated as fire approached almost 2 weeks ago now, and that left them trying to find places for almost 800 people to live. Hotels here in High Level were already full and still are because other communities evacuated before them. So now they're setting up trailers here at this site behind me for around 400 people to live because they still don't know when they'll be able to return home. And they also know this is just the beginning of wildfire season here in Alberta. In the meantime, many are being forced to live in tents because there's just nowhere else to go.
It hurts to see Canada and Alberta going to flames, It hurts so much to see that. And it's crazy to see stuff like that everywhere. But all you have to do is just pray. Just keep praying as much as you can.
And the First Nation is also setting up a temporary mental health facility near its band office. People here have experienced so much trauma. This is the 5th time they have been forced to leave their homes in the past 6 years due to wildfires and floods. The new facility will be funded by the federal government, as will the mental health clinicians being brought in to staff it. And crews here have been working on clearing the land since last Friday. They hope to have those temporary structures up within 3 weeks, and that is help people here say is desperately needed. Kayla Hounsell, CBC News, High Level, Alberta.
Saskatchewan is one of the only places in the world to successfully develop a certain technique for refining rare earth minerals. Government and Saskatchewan Research Council officials held a news conference today to announce the development. SRC can now manufacture proprietary commercial-scale solvent extraction cells for its rare earth processing facility currently under construction. Officials say it took 15 years of hard work, but this province was chosen because of expertise, capabilities, and the rare reserves of rare earths here.
There will not be 5 or 10 processing hubs across Canada. It doesn't make sense. The capital intensity needs to be in one area. So what this plant will do is, this plant and the others that follow it here in Saskatchewan will take minerals not only from Canada, but probably from right across North America and process it here in Saskatchewan.
SRC is manufacturing 140 of these cells at the fabrication facility by fall of 2023. The cells will be the main component in a new rare earth processing facility's separation unit. When separated, rare earth elements are highly valuable. They're used in cell phones, electric vehicles, wind turbines, and other products. More than $7 million is being injected into 5 Saskatchewan businesses focused on boosting the economy through innovation. The Federal Minister for Prairie Scan made the announcement today at one of those businesses, the Aviation Learning Centre at the Saskatchewan Indian Institute of Technology.
Right here at SIIT, we are investing $1 million to expand their aerospace workforce training programs. As providers of the only aircraft maintenance engineer program in Saskatchewan, we know that your graduates are in very high demand to fill well-paid jobs.
Other businesses receiving money are involved in manufacturing, digital innovation, agriculture, and food processing. Months of high consumer prices and high interest rates have been a recipe for driving up personal debt in Canada, and now the federal agency that oversees housing affordability is expressing concern. Nisha Patel reports.
It's no secret that Canadians are feeling stretched.
I stopped going out, and I don't even have Wi-Fi anymore.
I used to live in downtown, so I moved back home.
$41.70. Between the higher cost of living and higher interest rates meant to wrangle inflation, it appears many Canadians have racked up costly debt.
Half of my paycheck is going into paying off the credit card.
It's just ridiculous. Housing is too expensive, food is too expensive, childcare is too expensive.
Now, a warning from the National Housing Agency. Canadian households have the highest debt levels in the G7. If a recession or other unexpected crisis takes hold, the CMHC says families and the entire economy will be more vulnerable.
If people lose their jobs, they can't service their debt, their mortgage, and that leads to a major problem.
Canada's housing crisis is a central factor here. 3/4 of household debt is tied to mortgages. The CMHC says any attempt to address this looming problem should start with making housing more affordable.
Governments need to get together with the private sector to build more housing, get the supply side of housing working.
Still, it's also a call to Canadians to get their debt levels under control. But it's a difficult task for those who can barely afford the necessities.
If you've renewed your mortgage at any point in the last year, your housing costs are a lot higher, transportation is higher, so it's all of those expenses going up far faster than income.
This bankruptcy advisor says it's been his busiest month in years, a troubling trend that may be tough to turn around.
In a lot of cases, people don't have any choice. You can't just stop eating food because it went up in cost. So yes, we are in a crunch now.
A crunch that could get tighter when Canada's central bank makes its next interest rate announcement in just a few weeks. Nisha Patel, CBC News, Toronto.
A family that fled Honduras more than a decade ago is celebrating the impact one of their own has had on their new community. Victor Santos Cardoza was presented with a Saskatchewan Junior Citizen of the Year award by Lieutenant Governor Russ Morasti at Government House today. The Santos Cardoza family came to Canada when Victor was just 6 years old and settled in Moosomin. In 2017, the family faced deportation, but community support helped that order get dropped. Since then, Victor's been a prominent leader in Moosomin. He was actually the town's first youth councillor. He says he's a product and a reflection of his community, but gives a lot of credit to his parents, too.
My mother and my father, they helped me through a lot, and they supported me and they pushed me to do great things. My father especially, he's been through a rough go-around, You know, he came from Honduras, he immigrated from Honduras, you know, many years back, fearing for his life. So, you know, and for that, he's just inspired me to do great things. He's always pushed me and motivated me to strive for better. And, you know, I really always owe it all to him for bringing us here to Canada and providing us with a safe home and a better opportunity, really.
Santos Cardoza is one of 4 recipients of the Saskatchewan Junior Citizen of the Year Award. The winners receive a medal and a $3,000 bursary. Santos Cardoza says he hopes to inspire other immigrant children to get involved. Now 18, he plans to run for Moosomin Town Council next year and pursue post-secondary education. A filmmaker from Regina has premiered their documentary about the history of the Chinese-Canadian community in Moose Jaw. Wei Yu Su was disturbed by how the tunnels of Moose Jaw suggested Chinese migrants were forced underground to serve white business owners. The accuracy of the tour has long been in dispute.
After the tour, I felt ashamed and disrespected. I wonder what the Chinese community had to say.
The tunnel is not real. You know, how do you feel like, you know, being told that?
When the tunnel started, they never talked to the Chinese community about, you know, what's going on, what's going to be.
The filmmaker tells the story of 82-year-old Gail Chow, who came to Canada when he was 4 years old. The documentary explores the history of discriminatory laws in Canada and how the Chow family persevered, started a business, and built a life in Moose Jaw.
It's important to get rid of the so-called white gaze, right? To let ourselves to tell our own story. That's important.
The documentary, titled A Passage Beyond Fortune, premiered last night in Moose Jaw. You can also watch it on the National Film Board of Canada's website. Pouring rain in Regina this morning. Umbrellas and windshield wipers out in full effect. The much-needed moisture has given a green boost to Wascana and other parks around the city. Everything smells so fresh as the trees really start to bloom. As we get closer to the weekend, how much rain do we have in our future? Ethan has your forecast after the break. Stay with us. You may have heard about repair cafes, where people bring their broken household items and get help fixing them up. CBC's Amy Lau paid a visit to a shop in Montreal and talked to the people behind the tools who get much more out of volunteering than just being helpful.
They're armed with tools and spare parts. Their goal? To keep appliances out of landfills and working longer. David Poilubert has a bit more time on his hands these days. He recently sold his company. Now he wants to give back.
I very much see repairing as the citizen response to program obsolescence. And it makes people so happy when we actually can repair those old appliances. People come out with joy. They're so happy about it.
The repairmen are mostly all retired people. And it breaks a type of loneliness. When you're alone in your basement or in your house, it's difficult to socialize. Finding a community that shares the same objectives, it's a melting pot of good reasons to be here.
The volunteers also want to help Montrealers learn how to repair things themselves. And they're pushing for change.
There's no reason why Apple shouldn't prevent you from opening their stuff. You should be able to do that. There's no reason why Black & Decker makes crazy screws so that you don't repair broken equipment. Every piece of equipment should be repairable.
Poilubert wants the different levels of government to act. He wants them to protect the right to repair. In the meantime, he plans to keep helping change a disposable culture. One coffee maker and vacuum at a time. Amy Lowe, CBC News, Montreal.
This weather update is brought to you by Crestview Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, proud member of the Capital Automotive Group.
And our weather specialist, Ethan Williams, joins me now. Definitely needed an umbrella this morning, but not so much now.
Yeah, no, it's cleared up a little bit in some portions of the province, but a lot of places that really needed the rain yesterday got it yesterday, including Holbein just north of Prince Albert picking up close to 30 millimeters. Rosthern and Spalding getting in between 20 and 25 millimeters. Prince Albert yourself, you got about 15 or so, and so did Conquest just north of Lake Diefenbaker around 13 millimeters. But it was Saskatoon that really needed the rain, and we definitely saw it close to, or just over actually, 36 millimeters yesterday in the 24-hour span. And now you compare that to how much we've seen so far. That was basically all the moisture we've had so far in May of 2023. We were up to about 39 millimeters. And on an average, in an average May, we see around 43 millimeters of rain. So you've seen about 85% of your average May moisture so far, with a few more days to go here. And that's a good thing that we're seeing the rain, because that part of the province, along with a lot of west central Saskatchewan, very dry according to the drought outlook. And last month you only got about 35% of your average April moisture, so that's a good sign. More rain falling in portions of the province today, but it's the severe weather that is beginning to pick up right now. We do have a severe thunderstorm warning. This one just popped up, so unfortunately I don't know which RM this is, but it's just south of the Trans-Canada Highway near Moosomin, and this cell likely producing some pretty heavy rain, some sizable hail, nickel-sized hail is what we were hearing earlier today, and some strong winds as well, and a severe thunderstorm watch in effect for areas around Yorkton, Melville, Weyburn, Estevan, Carlisle, Oxbow, Carnduff, Moosomin, Grenfell, Kipling, Wowoda is where we are seeing that. And you can see where those storms are, where we have this kind of line here dividing warmer and more humid air to the south and east, and a bit of a front making things much cooler today in portions of central Saskatchewan. There's the cold front there. Going to be moving through tonight. Showers and thunderstorms, some severe, still possible in southeastern sections. Clearing, though, for Saskatoon and western sections as we head into tomorrow as a bit of high pressure begins to move in. Regina and southern Saskatchewan, or at least the eastern sections, I think we could see some showers again tomorrow. Thunderstorms in eastern Saskatchewan around Yorkton, Weyburn, Estevan, but less on the severe side. And then going into Friday morning, another area of thunderstorms moving into southern Saskatchewan as high pressure continues to clear out central and northern regions. And we are looking for, in thunderstorms at least, higher amounts, but a good 5 to 10 millimeters in a lot of sections. Estevan, keep in mind that this will be likely dependent on just how much we're seeing from how much rain we're seeing from thunderstorms. Winds outside of thunderstorms, though, going to be staying relatively light over these next couple of days, especially with high pressure in place over central and northern sections. So that is one thing we won't have to worry about. In Regina, one thing we will keep our eye on is, we've got the preseason football game on Saturday, and that could mean a little bit of instability in our weather, and you might want to bring some rain gear, but then sunshine and warmer temperatures come your way. Saskatoon, I think, again, you're a lot clearer tomorrow. Maybe some rain on Sunday. Temperatures, though, improving in those overnight lows. Nice and warm, Sam. Keep the windows open overnight, why don't you?
Not just that, but I feel like everyone who planted over the long weekend is very happy too.
Yes, there's something for everyone in that forecast.
Thanks, Ethan.
You bet.
We're back with more after the break. Welcome back. Cadmus Delorme was one of the most famous and most popular chiefs in all of Canada. He officially retired as the chief of Cowessess First Nation late last month. But our Louise BigEagle sat down with him before he left to reflect on his 7 years in the job.
How are your nerves now from when you were first elected as chief?
I look back today now, I feel very confident because of that. I never ever really had the less confidence in myself. I just didn't realize how much a chief had to deal with. Like, you think you run for elections today and you're gonna come in with all these ideas and implement them, and boom, it just hits you. You manage poverty, and that's priority. So 75% of my duty, I figured out, was managing poverty. Mental, emotional, physical poverty. And so the 25% was the innovation and the economics.
Is there anything that you wished you had accomplished but just didn't have the capacity as a chief?
I was hopeful we were gonna do a Lands Act, or an Education Act, or a Governance Act. And we just didn't have enough time. We didn't have the capacity. Trying to teach Cowessess to get from an administrative Indian Act governance structure to a nation-building, long-term strategic governance structure, took 7 years to get it to the momentum we're at. And so to try and talk about laws, you gotta understand, you gotta just focus on what you have for resources at the moment.
How did it feel as a chief having to run a community during the pandemic, and what was that like, being thrown to something that you never had no experience of controlling, maintaining, with like hundreds of people under your, looking up to you for help and to like ways to show them what to do?
You know, leadership put their name forward for change, and change means many different things, but also you put your name forward to run the affairs of the nation, and that includes pandemics, that includes validation of unmarked graves and intergenerational trauma. And you know, we got to give our First Nation leadership a lot more recognition and respect in this country, because many do this their entire life, and they really just, the return on it is that our people are getting stronger. And you know, it was such a journey that I had for 7 years, and now I get to tell people about it. And hopefully my stories can shed light on the importance of respecting leadership.
And speaking of that, is there any advice or anything that you would say to the newly elected chief?
Drive hope, be real, don't take yourself so seriously, and know what tone you're using with what audience, because you can't use the same tone with every audience, because you know, you have to understand, you are a servant leader, you're the tone setter, and you only got a limited time to do it. And don't set your goals too high, and just be real. And you're gonna look back one day and you're just gonna have to tell yourself, I did the best I can with what I had.
And Ethan's back with one last look at your weather.
And still cloudy tomorrow morning in Regina. Likely some light rain, too, by 8 a.m. 15 degrees, so temperature not too bad. And then heading toward the afternoon, I think the showers will come to an end. Less of a thunderstorm threat for us in Regina compared to southeastern Saskatchewan, but still cloudy around 18. Saskatoon, different in terms of your sky conditions. You're looking at a mix of sun and cloud in the morning, and you'll be a little cooler than you were today, or kind of right around where you were, actually 18 degrees at the noon hour tomorrow. Reminder that a severe thunderstorm warning is in place for the RMs of Walpole and Merrifield. Storm is near Fairlight, moving north at about 40 kilometers an hour. Some strong winds, heavy rain, and some quarter-sized hail possible with this storm, and a severe thunderstorm watch in place for the broader region tonight, Sam. So a heads up for people who are in that part of the province.
Eyes on the skies tonight. All right,
you bet.
Thanks, Ethan.
You bet.
And that is it for us tonight. For news anytime, you can head to cbc.ca/sask or subscribe to the CBC Saskatchewan YouTube channel. Ethan will be back with more local news and weather at 11. Thanks for watching, and have a great night.